Hello, Scorpio, and welcome to your monthly reading. So this is for the month of May. It's a collective reading for Scorpio sun or rising signs. So Scorpio sun or rising, definitely I would say if you are watching for one sign and you feel like it doesn't necessarily feel like the message that's resonating, then watch for your other, right? So if this is your sun sign and you're not feeling like it's a total match for what's going on with you, then I would say watch your rising sign, vice versa, right? So just getting a feel for the card for you guys. There we go. All right. Cool. So we're going to pull out, let's see, which do I want to use for my Scorpios? Huh. Sorry, you guys. I'm like feeling into my decks. I'm like, which ones? I'm going to go with this deck here. All right, we might even use a second deck. So I'm going to pull all of your cards first, and we're going to take a look at the progression of the month, and we will also take a look at the any kinds of challenges that are coming up and what kind of spiritual advice you have for moving through that. So, and then I'm also going to just mention a couple things regarding the astrology because I think it's important. I want to give you guys a heads up on what's up. Look at all the swords going on, Scorpio. I felt like that one was it. There we go. Well, at least it ends with the star. I like that. Okay. That's nice. Okay. I like that a lot. And let's see what we've got going on for your challenge for this month, and we'll take a look at your spiritual advice. So the reason I want to bring up the astrology is because I do feel like it is important, and we've just had so much big astrology lately, so I don't imagine that I'll be doing a ton of that maybe going forward unless people say that they really like it. So I've had feedback from a couple people saying that they do like having a little astrology mixed in. So I'm going to try to just mainly talk about it in the beginning here, so that way if you want to skip ahead, like you can. I might put timestamps down below. I haven't decided yet. So let's talk about this month really quickly in astrology. We start off with the beginning of this month on May 1st. With Pluto stationing to go retrograde, right? So we talked about this in previous videos, what a big deal it is for Pluto because it takes so many years to go through. It took 15 years for it to go through Capricorn. It moved into Aquarius, but when it moves into a new sign, it does this kind of like back and forth dance. So it'll retrograde back into the sign a couple times before it goes back into Aquarius and stays there fully. So in 2024, it will be fully in. We'll talk about that as we get closer to that date. So just wanted to give you a heads up. You might want to look at Capricorn in your chart and like where Capricorn is, what house it's occupying, so that you have an idea of which area of life you can take a look at what the themes are with Pluto and Capricorn to see like what there is to kind of wrap up, because it's one of those like really far out there like celestial bodies, Pluto. It can maybe be something that is a bigger theme in your life that you've seen through the last 15 years. And also you might just see this more on the world stage collectively versus feeling it so personally. However, on May 5th, this one will be the one that you really would feel personally, because the moon is definitely one that we can feel very personally. This is going to be the full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio on the south node, right? So basically, we have talked about in recent videos how the eclipse seasons, they usher in a lot of things and they remove things as well. So that's why eclipse season can be a little bit of a what's going to happen, right? And so especially for this particular one, I feel like this has the potential to be somewhat emotional and to like disturb the emotional waters. It's really interesting with this card starting out being there. We'll talk about that in a moment. So first of all, let me explain just a little bit about why. So we have it on the south node, right? It's a south node eclipse. The south node itself has to do with releasing and letting go. So that's already one layer of this. And then we have it as a full moon, right? It's a full moon lunar eclipse. So, you know, full moons, we know that emotions can be at their peak. It really amplifies emotions. So we have that. And then also the moon is in Scorpio in tropical astrology, right? So, you know, Scorpio is a water sign. It's a fixed water sign. So water, emotions, right? Like more emotion, depth, transformation, like all of those kinds of themes. And also it's a fixed sign, which means that there can be sometimes a little bit of stubbornness with the letting go. There can be a tendency to want to hold on, right? And so despite the fact that it's also about transformation and depth, right? There is that kind of dynamic there. So the moon being in Scorpio is not a place that it likes to be. It doesn't have a good time there. It has a really hard time with being in that particular constellation. And so with all of that, that's why I say it's like, this has the potential to be an emotional letting go. You could also be in a place where you feel like you are the one closing a chapter on something, either a project or maybe a certain identity, like a certain iteration of yourself and who you were. And you're like, I'm done with that person. I'm like moving on to this next version of myself, or a connection perhaps with somebody else, right? Sometimes these eclipses can do it like release for us, like it seems like it's taking, right, something to release for us in areas that we weren't necessarily expecting or weren't quite ready to let go of. So sometimes it can feel surprising and a little bit chaotic in that respect. So, you know, you can do the best that you can do to like look at it before and preemptively try to look at what needs releasing in your life and to take the reins in that way. And at the same time, some of this is just letting go and allowing and seeing like what happens as well. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up about that. Maybe that's a day that you want to just be more mellow and chill, right? So, I mean, I'm certainly going to do that. It's just as a side note, it is happening in Libra in sidereal. So, you know, just know that Libra tends to have to do with that, you know, harmonious like vibe and like wanting to relate and like connect, right? And so having to do sometimes with relationships, different kinds of relationships, not just love relationships, right? So if you're looking at it from sidereal, then it could be that it is, you know, dealing with that realm, right? So that's something to also look at. If you want to know which area of your life specifically this is going to be more so impacting and where you're going to feel this and see the themes around this coming up, you'll want to look at, if you're following just what I would call like regular astrology is what most people know of as tropical astrology. Look at where Scorpio is in your chart. Look at the house that it's hitting. That'll tell you what to look out for. And then also, if you're following sidereal, then look at Libra and like which house that's occupying, right? So last thing I'm going to say really quickly is that in the middle of the month on March 14th, we have Mercury stationing direct. So it's coming out of retrograde. And just because that day it's like coming direct doesn't mean like, oh yay, everything is just fine now. If you've been feeling the effects of Mercury retrograde, this particular one, then I would say this would be a time to just know that like things, yes, it's going direct, but it takes a little bit of time for the momentum to build for it to start to speed up and be back at its like normal speed. So just know that. All right, so that's it for the astrology. We're done with that. I just wanted to say all of that so we can now move ahead and let's talk about how your reading relates to all of that. Keep all of that in mind as we go forward talking about your reading. So with this particular deck, we're using these cards to help us understand how to direct the collective reading for Libra Sun, Libra risings, right? So sometimes it's a house, which is lovely, it's more direct, and sometimes it's one of these cards where we have more of a theme that's coming up. So dealing with the trines and the sextiles, these are really friendly, lovely transits in somebody's chart, and you don't need to know about transits or what they are or what that means. All you really need to know is that this is like the synergy of energy coming together. So to kind of illustrate that would be like you know, two different planets, or let's say a few different planets on each side of each other, and they're just like coming together in this way that where they work together and they blend the best aspects of themselves in a really lovely way, right? And so we can think about the way that we relate to other people, the way that we work together on projects, or, you know, the way that we relate in interpersonal connections like really close friendships or family or love relationships and that kind of thing, right? So this is the theme that we're seeing, and this is how we can kind of like come back to this and see how we can look through this lens at your reading. That's the best way I can say it. So we start out the beginning of the month with the 6 of Swords, move into the 10 of Swords, and then we finish off with the Star. I actually think it's super appropriate, and I really love that. And then we also have your challenge as the Page of Pentacles, and your spiritual advice is the Death card. I think this is super appropriate for all of the astrology that we have going on. Really love when the cards line up like that. So let's talk a little bit more about what's up. So in the beginning of the month, we have the 6 of Swords, right? And I think that this is a time for you to really be looking at the horizon, at where you're going on your next journey, and allowing yourself to really go there. You might feel that there are people that you feel like you're leaving behind. Really, let me just like reframe that for a moment. Like, she's going across the emotional waters, right? She's crossing over to a new land. She's going to a new adventure. She's going to cross over to the grass is greener over there. She's going over there. But there's a little bit of maybe grief or sadness about how there's some people who aren't ready to get on that boat and up level or move to that next chapter or that next adventure. And so we might feel like we need to let them stay where they're at, let them be how they are, be where they are. And maybe it feels like we're leaving them behind, right? People can grow sometimes in growth spurts, and maybe they're able to catch up with us at some point later in the future. But I feel like there's this letting go of perhaps connections or something specific like a project, but there is this moving on to greener pastures and moving on to the land across the way, right? And I think that that's super appropriate for what we have showing up with the month starting out with that full moon eclipse on the 5th, right? So this is the first third of the month. I think that's super appropriate. When we get to the middle of the month, and I really believe that this ties in with your spiritual advice, there is this 10 of Swords, and gosh, that's pretty gruesome, right? like 2 swords probably would have been plenty, maybe 1 even, and there's 10 swords. It's like don't kick a dead horse. Like, it's done. Whatever this was that you were needing to let go of, let it go. You can't just be like holding on to this, right? You got to just like let it be, let it go. And also let go. This could be referring to not just a connection, but patterns, like any kinds of habits or patterns that are not serving you anymore. And you know they're holding you back from really going forward in a way that is like clean and clear and can, you can get things done in your life that you want to get done. It's time to let that shit go. You just really gotta. And here's like a little bit of ray of sunshine, literally kind of like sunshine happening here in the background. This is meant to be like, that's the night, right? And the dawn is starting to happen, right? So it's the dawn of a new day. When you release and you let these patterns or habits or, maybe people or projects or whatever it is, when you let those things be done and you don't try to hold on to those things anymore, you clear the space and you have clean, clear energy. Think about the dawn. Like when dawn hits, when sunrise happens, the world is fresh. Everything feels brand new and clean and clear, right? It's the dawn of a new day. We've made it through the dark night of the soul. You've made it through the heaviness or the toxicity or the whatever was hard. And there is the promise and the possibility of having that clean, clear energy. And I think it's really perfect that towards the end of the month, here we have the Star card, right? So the Star card is showing up and saying like, yeah, you do, like, you can have this, like the last third of the month, if you just follow this, let this go, you really can have this experience of like the clearing out. Now remember, the Star card in succession of like the major arcana is right after the Tower card. So it is like a very similar kind of energy, right? It's right after the dark night of the soul. It's like the tower comes crumbling down. And it's like, it's so funny. I said that right then the wind picked up outside. It's like really hard. So, you know, messages, winks from the universe. So this is like right after there is this leveling of the structure. Like what wasn't working and wasn't going to work in the structure that it had in that particular iteration. It had to be decimated. It had to be like it had to come down and level the playing field back to square one so that you could have it clean and clear to start to rebuild again from a new clean, clear space. And that's what the Star card is about. The Star card is definitely also about healing. Like this could be emotional healing, energetic healing, you know, maybe even physical healing for some of you. But this is definitely like the ability to come into this place and feel like, fresh, clean, clear start, right? That dawn of the new day continuing into this really bright, clean, clear energy. So, and maybe for some of you, this also like makes space for you to actually be seen in this world, for you to actually be seen in, if you're working on maybe projects in particular that where you like feel like you'd like to be seen, this might clear the way for you to actually be seen. But more so, I feel like this is really giving me the vibe of the healing, especially because of the progression of your cards here. So that feels really powerful and like super on point here. When we look at the Page of Pentacles, for your challenge card, I think that you might feel kind of stuck in the mud, right? Like the challenge card is very similar to like a reversal of the card, right? So what we're looking at is, yeah, you might feel a little bit like things are feeling stuck. They're not, you know, I keep running into the same, like pigeonholed. I feel pigeonholed. Things are not moving the way that I want them to, or at the pace that I want them to. And just know that it is going to pick up, like I said, because of the astrology and what's happening. So just know that it's going to pick up. You might even feel like this might feel like a loss of some kind of opportunity, right? It might feel like there was some kind of job offer, or there was an opportunity that was there and you feel like it was a missed opportunity, or like you lost it, or like you are losing something that felt like an opportunity previously, you know? And so for some of you, that might be really very much related to this. So I think it's one of those two things. Again, this is a collective reading, so there's only so much that we can infer from what I see here because it's not a one-to-one reading. Again, if you want to book those, that information is down below. I have 30, 60, and 90-minute readings. So if you want to get really specific, but again, so this is what I'm seeing here. And then let's take a look at your spiritual advice. And your spiritual advice is the Death card. I love this card for your spiritual advice. It very much is echoing the information we're getting in these two cards here, right? This is another one of the cards where we see that after you've let things go, right? The connections, the projects, the people, the whatever it is that's like even the thoughts, the habits, the patterns, right? Like that we were talking about, the things that we typically like want to sweep under the rug. It's like, no sweeping under the rug. It needs to be buried, put to rest. Like that is like, allow it to die off and be done. So I'm really getting that very strong message for you, Scorpio. And this is energy that if you have strong Scorpio placements for your natal chart, I think you'd really relate to that kind of energy anyway. Like you get this energy, Scorpio, you get it. So this energy is nothing new to you. And it's something that's like, you need to embrace the allowing things to go. Whatever wants to go, let it go. Whatever you need to release it. Whatever patterns or people or whatever, let it be done. Put it to rest. Because once you do, look at right here again, right? We have the sun dawning a new day. And so the message like dawning a new day, clear, clean energy, like after the decimation of something, right? So it's just like, I just see this as being like, maybe it's uncomfortable, maybe it doesn't feel the greatest for you. But I do see that despite that, you come into the promise of things like moving into a clear, clean place for you to start from, to move forward from, to like, it's one of the best things when you have that clean slate, right? After you've embraced it. So, you know, hopefully it's nothing that feels too terribly uncomfortable. Of course, I don't wish that for anyone, but I do see a lot of promise here. And if you want to kind of get a sense of, you know, maybe the bigger picture, I would say my most recent videos that I did around it's the new moon, lunar, or solar eclipse, right, to the full moon. So it actually goes from then until the 5th. So go back and watch those. I'll put that up on the screen so you can go back and check that out. But I will also, just to say, I will also have on May 5th, full moon lunar eclipse readings from the full moon lunar eclipse to the next new moon for that period of time, and that will come out probably the day before or the day of. So just make sure that you hit the notification bell if you don't want to miss that. And also, if this has felt helpful or insightful in any way, please consider giving it a like or subscribing. It does help my channel as I'm building it. Either way, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.